All right, so you may be asking yourself, why is there a giant hole in this guy's door where there should be a door handle or a door lock? Well, that's because today we're bringing you another product review, and I'm super excited about this one. I've got our old lock removed because we're gonna get a new one installed here and test it out. Well, actually, I've already had it installed for a couple of days, but I took it back out because I wanted to kind of go through the entire installation process. And the lock that we're going to install today is another version of the ONNAIS. I think that's how you pronounce it. I've been doing these videos for a few years now, but the new lock that they have is a smart Bluetooth enabled lock that you can control from your cell phone. And that's not the only upgrade here, because this lock has got a couple of additional features that their previous locks don't have. And we're gonna take a look at those other features here in just a minute once we get this thing unboxed. All right, all you jokers out there who are gonna complain that this video is too long, well, here's the deal. It's chaptered out. So if all you want is the kind of the highlights of the lock, then you can just watch that part. If you just want the installation part, you can skip to that part if you want. If all you want is the discount code, well, just go down to the description and get your discount code. But guess what? There are a lot of people who want to see all of the details about this lock. They want to know all the details about the features. They want to see the installation. They want it all. So we're keeping everybody in mind in all of our videos. We always chapter them out. So if you're looking for something specific, just go down and go to that specific chapter. So specifically what we're looking at here is the ONNAIS Guard Smart RV door lock. And again, I've already had this thing installed for a couple of days and kind of tinkering around with it, but I've put it back in here just like it came from ONNAIS, so we could kind of see what it looks like when it comes out of the package. So the first thing that we see when we open it up is the user manual, and honestly, unlike previous user manuals that they've put out, this one's actually pretty good. And then if we just take this little foam thing off, throw that to the side, and inside of this little bag here, we've got a couple of things. We've got the lock itself and a box of goodies. This is basically everything that you need to get this thing installed, with the exception of a Phillips head screwdriver. You're gonna need, there's a little tiny one in here, and that's to get the battery compartment open, but you're probably gonna need a regular Phillips head screwdriver to get this thing installed. And then as well, we've got two key fobs, one in that box and one in this box. All right, don't need this box anymore. Toss that to the side. So this is the lock here. And if you ask me, it's pretty sexy, right? And it's super sturdy, just like all of their versions of their RV lock. And one of the things I really like about this, while we're looking at it right here, is this handle. I really like the way this handle looks and feels and operates. It's a little bit different than our normal door locks on these RVs. But what I want to do now is just kind of talk about the key features of this lock before we get it installed and get it all set up. So I'm just going to refer to my phone like I always do on a lot of these videos, because I don't want to miss anything. So number one, again, it's a Bluetooth enabled lock. So you can control this thing straight from your smartphone. Now, their official stance on this is that you can control this thing from your phone within about 15 feet. Now, personally, I would prefer that it would be even farther than 30 feet, because here's the deal. If you're coming back from the grocery store, you got a load of groceries in your arms, you don't really want to pull out your phone, you don't really want to pull out your key fob, and when your hands are full, you may not be able to actually put your keypad code in either. So what would be nice is if we had maybe a 50 or 60 foot range on this thing, so that before you even get out of your vehicle, you can open up your app, hit the unlock button, and then you don't have to worry about fiddling with that as you're taking your groceries inside, right? Well, you also have the key fob, which I think is good up to about 100 feet. And so what we do is, we normally, if we know we're gonna have our hands full, we'll just open it with the key fob. So I guess what I would say about the Bluetooth function on this is, if you're looking for that to be the main feature of this lock, you're probably going to be a little bit underwhelmed. There are a couple of instances where I think it is useful. The first one is, like I said, coming home with all those groceries. But number two, I don't know how many times I've crawled in bed at night and then went, oh crap, I forgot to lock the front door. And yeah, I know, it's like 15 feet to get to the front door and lock it. I understand that, but now it's much easier. I can just grab my phone by the bedside, open up the app, lock it, and then go to bed. So again, I don't really think that the Bluetooth feature of this is the main feature that everybody's gonna like. It's just kind of an added convenience that will come in handy every now and then. Now, having said that, there are some other things that we can do through the app. We can monitor the battery status, we can turn the backlight on and off, we can set up and give people one-time access codes through that app if we want to. So there are some things that we can do via the app that are kind of handy. And then for the lock itself, just like all of their previous locks, this is the third ONNAIS lock that we've had. We've had, I think, every version that they've put out. This thing is super sturdy. It's very heavy. As far as comparing this to any of the RV locks we've had in the past, and I'm not going to mention any other brand names, but the ones that we've had in the past have all just seemed a little bit cheap and a little bit flimsy. So this one definitely is not cheap or flimsy. And so obviously what we've got here on the front, just to go over some of the features here, we've got the keypad itself. One of the things that I like that ONNAIS does is they give you a one-touch lock button. So when you walk out, all you gotta do is just hit the lock button and it locks itself. You don't have to enter the code and then hit the lock button, you just hit the one button. And then obviously you've got the 9 numbers up here so you can set any code that you want. It's gotta be 5 digits, I think. So you put your little code in there, you hit the enter button, and boom, the thing unlocks. And then if we pull down this little rubber piece here, we've got the mechanical key slot. So in case the battery dies or if this thing just stops working for whatever reason, you can still put your mechanical key in. And then they've also added, this is a new feature on this one, they've added a USB-C port on here, which I think is kind of genius because I've always been like, well, what if the battery dies and I don't have my mechanical key on me? Well, you can take a little battery pack, connect it up here, and that will give you temporary power to this lock so that you can enter your code and get inside, and then of course replace the batteries in here. So I think that was actually kind of a genius idea to put that temporary power port right here on the front. Now, it does not charge the batteries inside. All it is a temporary power port. All right, and then if we flip this thing around to the back, we've got some buttons and so forth back here. So number one, we've got the battery compartment. Takes 4 AA batteries. This thing's not gonna come with the AA battery, so you're gonna have to provide your own. And then we've just got all the buttons up here to do all of the programming. So you've got a reset button and a set button. And then we've got a button to either turn on or turn off the backlight. And then you can also hit the mute button if you don't like the beeping noise. I personally like the beeping noise because it lets me know that it's working, and that the batteries have still got a charge in them. So I like to leave that feature on. Another new feature that they have, actually 2 here, that they've added in this version, and this is kind of, I don't know, it's kind of small, but from the inside of the RV, you can either lock this thing by turning the dial like that to the lock and unlock position, or you can simply hit the lock and unlock button. I kind of like that. I don't know why, it's just another option to have to lock or unlock this thing from the inside. And then the other thing that I thought was really neat, if you'll notice, we've got the latch here, right? The normal latch, but there's no deadbolt on this thing. Well, the way this one works is when you lock this thing like this, I don't know, it's got some kind of mechanical interlock inside or mechanical locking mechanism that prevents this latch from now being operated. So if you're expecting to see a deadbolt on here, it's not gonna have one, but it does prevent that lock from moving, or that latch from moving when it's in the lock position. So this lock is still just as secure as any of their previous versions. Okay, so now let's talk about who can use this lock. So number one, it's only a right-handed lock, right? They don't currently have a left-handed version. So if your door hinge is on the right side and your lock is on the left, this is gonna work for you. If it's opposite of that, it's not gonna work for you. I don't think this is gonna work with your Class A motorhomes either. Also, and I gotta look at my notes here, so this thing is gonna fit your standard RV door opening of about 3.75 inches by 2.75 by 1.5 inches. So for most of your towable RVs, this is just gonna be a direct replacement for that factory lock that was installed when you bought the RV. All right, also, this thing is gonna come with 2 remote key fobs here. Let's pull this out. Take a look at it. This thing is super sturdy, guys. It is not made of cheap plastic like the other ones that I've seen. This thing is probably gonna far outlive your RV, to be honest with you. So we've got the remote key fob as well. And again, it's got the mechanical key inside of it. And I'll show you here in just a few minutes how we're gonna program this to this specific lock. And then they've got, they say that this thing's got a lifetime warranty on it. I'm sure there are some conditions on that. I don't really know what those conditions are, but they do advertise this as having a lifetime warranty. Okay, so now that we've kind of gone through the basic features of this thing, let's take a look at how easy this thing is to install. And then we will get our keypad set up, our code, our own personal code set up. We got to change it from the default password that it comes with, which I think is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Nobody wants to leave it at that. So we'll look at how to program that. We'll look at how to program the key fobs. We're going to look at how to set up the app. We're going to take a look at all of that stuff. And just real quick, the rest of what's in this baggie here, they give you a couple of the support plates, right? These are what goes on the door side of the latch. And then they give you a striker plate as well that goes on the door frame itself. And then they give you, if we can see it, they give you all the screws that you need as well. And then the next thing that we want to do is we need to separate the two halves of this lock. So we've got the inside half and the outside half, and it is connected in the middle by a little ribbon tape for all of the electronic controls. So there's 4 screws on the back, and that's what your T-handle Allen wrench is for. Okay, now when we pull this apart, we need to be careful about that little ribbon strap in the middle. We don't want to dangle it by that strap because we don't want to pull any of those connections apart. So it's a little typical connector here. So you just press down on one side and then you pull them apart. So I'm just going to set this down here real careful and separate this out. There we go. And then the other thing about this strap is when we install this thing, we just want to make sure that this thing doesn't get pinched anywhere inside of here and then ruin any of these little tiny wires. So we just got to be careful with that when we install it. And you know, again, I'll show that here in just a minute. All right, so this can totally be done just with one person. But if you got a second pair of hands standing by, it can be a little helpful for somebody to just hold things in place while you're doing this. But I'm going to demonstrate that you can do this by yourself. This thing went in very, very easily. Basically, the latch part just goes right through the end over here. We're just going to slide it in just like this. The previous locks that we've had, the ONNAIS ones, they were a little bit hard to get in there. This part back here was a little bit wider than this one. And so when you stuck this in here, you kind of had to jam it in. This one, at least for my door, goes in nice and easy. Now, if you are having trouble getting that in there, it's really not an issue. You can get yourself a file or a knife and just kind of shave this back a little bit. As a matter of fact, the last ONNAIS lock that we installed, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to cut this back just a little bit to get it to go in. But it's not a problem because that's all going to be covered up by this lock. So again, real nice and easy to slide that sucker in there. And then the next part here might be where you could use an extra set of hands. Not necessary, but if you got an extra set of hands, it would be helpful. So what we want to do next is just connect this ribbon tape over here. And again, we don't want to dangle any of this, the inside or the outside part, by the ribbon cable because we might damage it. But as best we can, we want to kind of grab this cable in here and just snap it together. All right, so now that we've got that together, we just need to mate the inside and outside parts together. And again, we want to make sure that we don't pinch this ribbon cable anywhere inside. And they've kind of got a little recessed area here that you can tell that that's where this ribbon cable is supposed to fold up into. And one thing you want to make sure you get right when you put this on here, so 2 things really, is we've got the locking mechanism here, and there's a little slot right here for the shaft of the locking mechanism, so those have to mate up properly. And then also we've got the door latch itself right here. So when you put this thing on, you want to make sure that you're pressing that door latch in so that this little piece here is on the right side of the door latch on the outside piece. And because if you don't do that, then what's going to happen is you'll get this thing all together and the door latch it won't work, right? So we've got the handle pushed in so that that mates up properly, and now we just need to mate up the actual locking mechanism. And again, my head might be here in the way here, but just bear with me. There we go. And then the way that we know that we've got this is if we just give this little knob a turn, now we feel some resistance on there as that locking mechanism engages and disengages. All right, and then also our latch here works. If I pull this out, there we go, we can see the latching mechanism is moving. So we've got this mated up properly, and now what we need to do is get our screws in there. And again, this is where the second set of hands might be handy, but we got this. All right, and then one final check here just to make sure everything is in correctly. We can operate the latch here. All right, we can operate the lock mechanically. We can operate it electronically. All right, so everything is mated up properly. Now, again, I recommend leaving this just a little bit loose because now what we've got to do is install this support plate right here. And what I found initially was I tightened this whole thing down the first time I installed this, and these holes did not line up, and I had to physically adjust the position of the lock. So I'm going to leave it a little bit loose. I'm going to grab that support plate and we'll get that put on. And this is where you're going to need that regular Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so Phillips screwdriver. We've got our support plate, and then in that little baggie there are two little tiny screws here, and that's what this is for. So we're just gonna line everything up here, right? And again, if you look through there, you can see the holes that go into the lock itself, and you just need to get those lined up and in the right position. So right now, I've got to do a little bit of wiggling, I think, to get those holes to line up. There we go. So on mine, I've got it really pushed down on this lock here to get those holes to line up. But once I do, these screws should go in just fine. There we go. So now we've got everything in place. Everything is still working. I can hit the lock button and unlock. We're good there. Our latching mechanism is good. And now all we need to do is just tighten up those screws on the inside piece. There we go. Everything is snug, but not too tight. Everything operates nice and cleanly, and everything is installed nice and square. So now what we want to do is we want to program the keypad to our own personal code, and then we want to program the key fobs, and then we'll take a look at the app. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit the reset button 3 times. We heard that beep. Now we're going to come around and do the default password and enter. Now we hit the set button. Now we hit our own personal code, and I'm just going to use temporary for right now, 67890, enter, and then 67890, enter. There we go. Now we've got a successful programming. So now if I hit the lock button, it will lock itself. And then we test our own personal code, 67890, enter. And now the door is unlocked. And unlike the lock itself, the key fobs do come with batteries, so you don't have to worry about that. So let's see how easy this is to program. So first step, enter the password, 67890, enter. Got a little beep there. We're going to hit set 3 times. All right, now our keypad is flashing. I'm going to hit a button on here. I heard a little beep. Now I think we have to wait for it to complete its 15-second pairing period, and then once that's done, we'll confirm that it works. Here we go. So we're currently unlocked, and if we keep an eye on here, we'll be able to see this thing operate. So there we go, we went from unlocked to locked, and then now we're gonna go unlock. There we go, now we're unlocked, and pretty easy, right? And getting this thing paired with your phone is pretty easy as well. So the first thing, obviously, that we gotta do is download and install the ONNAIS app. And I've already got mine installed here, so just go into your store, whether you have an Apple phone or an Android, search for the ONNAIS app and get it installed. Now, when we first get this open, if you don't already have an ONNAIS account, you're gonna need to create one. So hit the sign up button. If you've ever signed up for anything ever in your life on a phone, it's pretty basic. It's the same as everything else. Now, I've already done that, so I'm just gonna sign in real quick. Now, once you've created your account and you go back and you go to the sign up page, it's gonna send you a verification code. I've found that this actually goes to my spam account. So if it doesn't show up in your regular email, check your spam folder. All right, so once you enter your security code that probably went to your spam folder. What we want to do next is we want to add our device. Now we've got to put the lock itself into pairing mode, and that's pretty simple, right? So what we want to do here is just put our passcode in, right? And then we're going to hit the 3 button twice and enter. And we should be in pairing mode. So now I'm going to hit the add button within the app. And then down here at the bottom, it shows our device, and we just click on it, hit add. And it takes a couple of seconds, but the lock beeps, and then it brings up our main panel within the app. And then within our app here, we've got several things that we can do. It's actually kind of convenient. So number one, the basic lock and unlock features. So right now it's unlocked. If I wanted to lock it, I just slide that little key over to the left and the door locks, slide it to the right, and it unlocks. Like I said before, we've got a battery level indicator in here, and then over here on the right, we can control the backlight and the beep, right? So I can turn the backlight off, I can turn the beeping off, same as you can do from the inside of the door lock itself. I like to keep both of those on. And then down at the bottom, we've got 3 more options down here. Sync, it just syncs everything up, I guess. I'm not exactly sure what that does. I haven't been able to find any real good information on that yet. Then we've got a history button, and this will give us a history of every time this lock was operated. And then we have an access button here, and that gives us 3 options in here. We can create that one-time password. So if somebody needs to get into our RV while we're gone for whatever reason, obviously somebody you trust, you can assign them a one-time passcode. And then after they use that passcode for the very first time, they can only use it once, then that passcode is no longer valid. Also, we can take a look at our key fobs, and you can actually program the key fobs, from what I understand, via the app. I don't know, I think it's easier to just do it on the lock itself the way that we did it. And I think you can even go in here and delete them if you want to. So you have that capability in this app as well. And then the last thing is to share access. So for me, I'm gonna share access with my wife, Candace, so that she can download the app and use it to remotely operate this lock as well. So basically all we're gonna do is just enter her email address there, and what I assume is gonna happen is it's going to send her an email and walk her through the process of getting all of this set up. And that's basically everything that you can do from the app itself. So anyway, that's gonna wrap this review video up. Once again, we have been nothing but impressed with these ONNAIS locks. They're super sturdy, super secure, and you know what? If the whole Bluetooth thing just isn't your jam, they've got 2 other versions of this. So they've got the Guard SE, which was their first RV lock that they released, and then they put out the Guard Pro, which is the one that I'm actually replacing now. And the difference between the SE and the Pro is that the Pro comes with fobs that will control 2 separate locks. So if you've got an RV with 2 separate doors on it and you want one of these locks on each door, you can use one single fob to control both of those locks. And then of course we've got the newest version, which is the Guard Smart RV Door Lock. All right, so again, maybe the Bluetooth version, it just isn't your jam. Maybe you don't need the Bluetooth version, but you want one of these remotely controlled locks that you can feel secure using. We'll go ahead and put links down in the description area for all of these locks, and you can use our discount code that's also down there in the description area to get 20% off. All right, so again, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. I hope you got something out of it. If you did, make sure you hit that like button down there. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, and then while you're at it, make sure you hit that bell button to get notified of all of our future videos. And as always, until that future video, happy camping and stay safe out there, guys.